at Disney, Zegler pulled a con so bold in London, audiences were screaming refund in 4 languages. Let's just say that thanks to Zegler, a bad publicity stunt, and a few hundred smartphones, the big number she was supposed to sing in Evita is now all over social media.
It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
But it wasn't sincere because she's had a long history of saying woke, annoying things. Our new Snow White.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
Rachel Zegler just got roasted by major Hollywood voices for being the most arrogant, ungrateful, and tone-deaf actress of her generation.
The very first actress in history to become box office poison before she ever came box office.
From destroying Snow White to sinking Disney's reputation, she's now the poster child for how ego and woke activism can nuke a career. They called her the worst actress in Hollywood history.
It was a wholesome family film, and now they've turned it into woke trash. Check this out from Wokeness. Disney's Snow White said that harm should befall Trump and his voters. Do not see this film.
Let's start from her pathetic journey of her career. At just 17, Rachel Zegler somehow managed to land the lead role of Maria in Spielberg's West Side Story in 2020. And look, kudos to her for that. That's a dream role. And Spielberg is no C-list director. She even snagged a Golden Globe for it, which back then made people think she was about to go full-blown A-lister.
Rachel Zegler's career launched when, at 17, she landed the role of Maria in Steven Spielberg's 2021 adaptation of West Side Story.
There were articles calling her the next big thing, casting directors fawning, studios drooling, and Disney? Oh, they thought they'd struck gold. They went all in on her for their shiny new Snow White remake, throwing over $200 million at this project like money grew on CGI trees. It didn't.
And Rachel Zegler, being 23 or whatever she is, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantada is the only global solution.
By 2025, the girl who was supposed to be Hollywood's sweetheart was no longer strolling red carpets. Nope. She was dodging pitchforks on Twitter, crying on stage during Evita, and getting mocked in memes for performing to empty theater seats.
An iconic song, yes, but it's the balcony grabbing all the attention.
Evita, by the way, got so desperate for attention that they started streaming her performance outside the venue like some sort of street act. Can't sell out a show? No worries, slap up a screen and hope someone trips over it on their way to Starbucks. Tickets literally dropped to $0 online. Free. Nada. Zilch. That's how much people wanted to see her sing about Argentina.
I think there will be people who are disappointed that she hasn't sung it live in the theatre, but I think it's going to be greatly outweighed by the theatricality of using film in that way.
But we can't blame the theater crowd entirely. Disney kind of set her up for failure then, with her help, of course. Rachel's casting as Snow White was controversial from the jump. The 1937 classic had a sweet, soft-spoken princess with fair skin and old-school charm. What did Disney do? They brought in Rachel, who basically rebranded Snow White as a girl-boss dictator with a superiority complex and a personal vendetta against fairy tales.
But she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
I mean, you don't need to be a hardcore Disney fan to find that tone shift jarring. Families who grew up on the original just wanted a little nostalgia. What they got instead was a politically charged, modernized version of a classic that felt more like a TED Talk on empowerment than a magical story.
Here's actually Rachel Zegler, who is the new Snow White, and she's talking about Snow White being woke.
Can you tell us a little bit about your version of Snow White?
Yeah, I mean, Snow White is the girl you remember, but she's definitely made for the modern age, and there's such an emphasis on what it really means to be the fairest of them all. And for Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler.
And Rachel? She didn't exactly help herself. She trashed the prince in the original as a stalker, said the love story was weird, and then had the audacity to say that Snow White's name wasn't even about her skin tone anymore. Nah, it's because she survived a blizzard. A blizzard. Who greenlit that rewrite? The same people who thought turning the 7 dwarfs into glowing CGI blobs was progressive. Yeah, let's not even go there yet.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Back to Zegler. Critics and audiences dragged her, rightfully so, for openly disrespecting the very character she was hired to play. Imagine getting paid millions to play Snow White, and then going on a press tour telling the world how dumb Snow White is. That's like someone hiring Ryan Reynolds to play Deadpool, and him saying, "Honestly, I hate superheroes, and this suit smells like garlic." Oh wait, Ryan might actually say that, but at least he's charming when he self-sabotages. Rachel? Not so much.
That at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
You heard that right. Zegler not only believes that she's a priceless work of art, she thinks she's sacred, and she doesn't just shout that into the mirror.
Fans weren't having it either. The hashtag #NotMySnowWhite blew up faster than her box office numbers collapsed. The internet collectively decided they were done watching celebrities destroy beloved classics just to prove how progressive they are.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion.
People don't want their childhoods rewritten by someone who treats every interview like a slam poetry session about how awful the past was. And Rachel seemed determined to make sure nobody forgot just how much she disliked the original movie. The character, the prince, the romance. Honestly, I'm shocked she didn't trash the apple too.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
But wait, it gets worse. This girl managed to alienate everybody, like full-on tour-level alienation. You'd think a rising star would know how to handle a little fame. Smile, wave, thank your fans, repeat, but not Rachel. One fan sang a line from West Side Story to her while she was at Chili's, and instead of saying thank you or even faking a smile, she told Jimmy Kimmel the guy ruined her night. Who says that? Thanks for being excited to see me, peasant. Now my enchiladas are ruined. Seriously?
Anyway, in one clip, she calls the Sharks, the rival gang of the Jets in this new version of West Side Story, a rainbow of the Latino community, and then struggles to name what constitutes Latino diversity.
And it didn't stop there. At Disneyland, during the Snow White ride, you know, the one that's literally themed after the movie she's starring in, she said she has to pretend to love people when fans stop her for pictures. Pretend. She openly admitted she has to fake being nice to the people who keep her career alive. If that doesn't scream ungrateful, I don't know what does.
Just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
Babe, what business do you mean?
Let's talk numbers, because this wasn't just a cringe fest. It was an economic disaster. Disney dropped over $200 million into making this Snow White remake. On top of that, they spent over $100 million more on marketing. That's more than some countries' GDPs. What did they get in return? An opening weekend in the US that barely scraped together $43 million. And it only got uglier. By week 2, the film took a nosedive with a 66% drop in sales. That's not a dip. That's a full-on Titanic moment. Lifeboats, screaming, the whole thing.
For a very long time, it seems that nobody has quite captured the public's disdain like our girl, Rachel Zegler. The damage had been done.
Theaters started quietly yanking the movie from prime slots, pushing it to awkward midday screenings, or removing it entirely. In China, where Disney usually prints money, this thing pulled in less than $1 million. Less than $1 million. That's basically popcorn revenue. Final estimates? Around $150 million in total losses. That's the kind of failure that makes executives question their life choices. Like, someone at Disney probably retired early just to avoid answering emails about this mess.
She recently told that to a reporter and her psychiatrist that every inch of her body is built inside and out to be worshipped. My compassion has no boundaries.
So yeah, go woke, go broke isn't just a slogan. Rachel Zegler turned it into a business model. She managed to offend the audience, disrespect the original creators, insult her own fans, and burn through hundreds of millions of dollars, all while crying on a balcony for a stage play that people were watching for free outside.
Snow White, they recreated it. You know, Disney's gone woke, as I keep telling you guys, even though a lot of the woke stuff is disappearing.
And let's not forget, there are hundreds of actresses in Hollywood who would have killed for the opportunities Rachel got. Instead, she took it all, rolled it into a flaming ball of ego, and kicked it directly into Disney's most treasured IP. Talent or not, you can't teach humility. You either have it or you Rachel Zegler it right out the window.
I'm a narcissist.
You thought the disaster stopped at box office numbers? Think again? We're not even halfway through Rachel Zegler's masterclass in self-destruction. Buckle up, because this second half is where things go from bad to catastrophic. It's like watching someone drive a Ferrari off a cliff, then getting out and blaming the cliff for existing. Let's talk about the part of this circus that really nailed the coffin shut, the dwarf disaster.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive. You'd think the most progressive thing would be get people jobs, and dwarfs want to work.
So here's what happened. Disney, in what was probably their last good decision before this film mutated into a radioactive mess, originally planned to cast real actors with dwarfism to play the 7 dwarfs. You know, the roles that were literally written for them. But then Peter Dinklage, who apparently woke up one day and decided he's the CEO of all short-statured actors, went on a podcast and called it regressive. That's all it took.
Not that many scripts that come down the pike.
Only 7 of them.
That has, and there's 7 dwarf jobs here. But because I think it was Peter Dinklage said this is, this is not right.
One rant from a guy who already has an Emmy shelf larger than most people's kitchens, and Disney folded like a wet napkin. They panicked, scrapped the original cast plan, and replaced the dwarfs with what? CGI blobs. Glowing, soulless, fake-looking cartoon smudges that looked like they were rendered by an intern using a 2007 laptop.
Spend 1 minute on Snow White and how it totally imploded at the box office this weekend.
Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad.
And guess what? The actual dwarf actors were pissed, rightfully so. These were jobs made for them. Rare, mainstream, high-paying roles. And Disney snatched that away in the name of looking progressive. The irony? They were being inclusive by being exclusive. Real actors came forward and called it what it was. A betrayal of inclusive casting. One even said, "Peter's rich, we're not." And it's true. These weren't guys trying to lecture Hollywood. They were just trying to work. But apparently Disney would rather be applauded for their CGI creatures than criticized for hiring actual humans.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's how.
And you wonder why people are turning from this stuff in droves.
And then, as if things couldn't get worse, Rachel Zegler decided to open her mouth. Again. She proudly told the press that this change meant they were moving past stereotypes. Oh, bravo, Rachel. Tell a group of unemployed dwarf actors how proud you are that they've been replaced by glittery polygons. That's like setting someone's house on fire and then congratulating yourself for reducing their carbon footprint. She somehow managed to make both sides angry, the progressives for being performative and the traditionalists for wrecking the story. A true talent for pissing off everyone in the room without even trying.
Love you. I love me. I love you.
I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and it is I have to pretend oh God,
I love you.
But let's not stop at the dwarfs, because next, we got to watch Rachel take a beloved fairy tale and absolutely girl boss it into the void. Remember when Snow White was about love, kindness, and, actual character development? Rachel decided that was boring. According to her, Snow White wasn't dreaming of true love anymore. She was dreaming of becoming a leader. Because, of course, nothing says wholesome bedtime story like overthrowing the monarchy and launching a TED Talk on female empowerment.
Once she believes that a co-star might just outshine her, she's going to send that compassion for her smoke break, and out pop the claws, and out comes the Hollywood hitman in high heels.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah.
She even joked that her co-star Andrew Burnap's scenes could get cut entirely. This poor guy probably thought he landed a huge role in a Disney classic. And there she is on the press tour, casually suggesting he might get Thanos snapped out of the final edit. The disrespect. But that's the energy she brought to every interview. Smug, detached, above it all. It was less Disney magic and more college sophomore who just discovered Tumblr feminism. Critics weren't kind either. The film was branded a Frankenstein girl boss remake, with no heart, no warmth, no joy. Just Rachel on a soapbox telling us she's the future of monarchy or whatever delusion she was running with that week.
You know I'm talking about, the very same delusional diva that once compared herself to the Winged Victory, a masterpiece statue in the Louvre that, even missing its arms and missing its legs, still is more self-aware than Zegler.
And to everyone.
And just when you thought she might take a step back, maybe let the PR team do their job, Rachel Zegler turned into a full-blown political wrecking ball. You can't make this stuff up. This girl was out here promoting a family movie. A family movie, while posting F Donald Trump, and Trump supporters should never know peace. Yes, really. Because if there's one thing parents love while deciding which movie to take their kids to, it's being told by the lead actress that they should rot in hell. Flawless marketing strategy.
Disney's Snow White said that harm should befall Trump and his voters. Do not see this film. And this is obviously an image that she put up. I think this is from Instagram. She wrote, Rachel Zegler, this is the girl who plays Snow White. I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred.
She doubled down after the 2024 election, going on about how the result created a world she didn't want to raise her hypothetical daughter in. Which, okay, have your opinions? But maybe don't weaponize a Disney press tour to deliver your political sermons, especially when you're starring in a film that literally needs red state families to break even. But Rachel didn't care, and the fallout was immediate. Boycotts erupted all over X, led by media figures like Megyn Kelly, who flat out called for Disney to fire her.
Rachel Zegler, she's an asshole.
And you know things are bad when even your co-star Gal Gadot looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. Their promo interviews were so awkward it was like watching an HR training video in real time. Fans noticed. Nobody believed there was chemistry. It felt more like two strangers being forced to share an Uber pool.
She just refuses to change her ways because to her it's about ego, not evolution. And it doesn't matter whether it's her hijacking an interview that's above her pay grade or out promoting a film campaign.
So what does a once hyped Hollywood actress do after detonating $1 billion empire and torching every bridge in sight?
Tweet from Eric Daughtry. Just in, an enormous cultural failure, Disney's Snow White, which cost $250 million to produce, raked in a miserable $43 million during its premiere, and that's from the AP.
Naturally, she runs back to theater. Because when all else fails, there's always New York. Rachel headlined Evita, which sounds promising until you realize how it went. Instead of fixing her image, she found new ways to make people hate her. Critics shredded the production, especially after it started streaming her performances outside the theater for free, while paying guests sat inside watching her on a screen like it was a sports bar. Imagine spending $150 on a ticket just to get the same view as the guy eating a hot dog on the curb. That's not revolutionary. It's disrespectful.
Others have posted on X to complain that they've paid a lot for tickets, only for the biggest number in the show to happen off stage, something the show's composer has some sympathy for.
I think there will be people who are disappointed that she hasn't sung it live in the theatre, but I think it's going to be greatly outweighed by the theatricality of using film in that way.
Ticket sales tanked. There were nights where they had to literally give away seats. Some people were handed free entry like it was a high school dress rehearsal. And then, to top it off, a clip went viral of Rachel crying on stage after a standing ovation. Was it sincere? Maybe. But social media didn't buy it. Most people called it performative, Another PR stunt to make her look like the misunderstood starlet instead of the person who created this mess in the first place.
I was gifted very good cheekbones from God, which is something I thank him for constantly. When I was a kid, I used to manifest having cheekbones and dimples, and I got them both. Keep manifesting, ladies.
And let's not forget the whispers. Rumors circled that Rachel tried to rewrite parts of the Evita script for modern sensitivity. Because, of course she did. Because why honor the legacy of a legendary production when you can shove your personal brand of political correctness into it and pretend it's progress? Sure, there's no concrete proof, but when you've already alienated every demographic on the planet, you don't exactly get the benefit of the doubt.
And for Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler and a wonderful queen, because there's another one.
At this point, Rachel Zegler isn't just a failed Disney princess. She's a cautionary tale, a live-action lesson in how to blow up your own career with a single press tour and a Wi-Fi connection. From replacing real actors with CGI garbage, to turning a fairy tale into a feminist rally cry, to screaming her political opinions into the void while promoting movies for toddlers, she's done it all. And somehow, she keeps getting work, which just proves that Hollywood doesn't learn. But audiences? Oh, they've learned. They've learned not to buy what Rachel's selling. Not the movie, not the message, and definitely not the tears.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Rachel Zegler didn't just kill the fairy tale, why, she buried it under layers of arrogance, delusion, and the kind of self-righteous energy you usually only see from people who post 20-slide Instagram stories about healing. And while Disney bled out on the corporate floor, Rachel was out there telling ID Magazine in 2025 that her platform was a responsibility to speak the truth. Oh yes, the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Spoken, of course, by the same person who turned Snow White into a bitter monologue about toxic patriarchy and deleted the prince because apparently love is out of fashion now. Look, fans don't care if celebrities have opinions. Most of them have opinions too. What they hated was how Rachel weaponized her roles to deliver them. Every interview became a soapbox.
At this point, she sort of feels like the poster child for it. What's really interesting is that Zegler's fall from grace has been a very satisfying watch for plenty of people.
Every comment felt like a lecture. She didn't just play a character, she hijacked it, rewrote it, and used it to roll her eyes at anyone who enjoyed the original. And when people called her out for it, the same old damage control every single time. Oops, got emotional. Oh please. These apologies weren't apologies, they were press release templates with fake mascara smudges, and they were always followed up by another flaming hot take that burned what little goodwill was left.
Rachel Zegler and Disney Snow White walk into a psychiatrist's office. The doctor says, "What's the problem, ladies?" Rachel frowns and says, "It's the fans." Snow White shakes her head and says, "Nope, it's all Zegler."
But this wasn't just a Rachel problem. It became a full-blown Disney crisis. The studio has been losing favor with audiences for years. From live-action flops to tone-deaf remakes, they've been limping through a minefield of their own making. But Snow White, that was the final straw. That was the moment audiences collectively said, "You know what? We're out." And guess who they blamed? Not the writers, not the producers, not even the guy who designed those horrifying CGI dwarfs. Nope. All fingers pointed to Rachel Zegler.
Snow White just bombed at the box office again. How the hell did that happen? You've heard of a movie flopping at the box office, but have you heard of a movie flopping at the box office twice in 2 months?
She didn't just mess up a movie. She became a symbol of Disney's entire identity crisis. Internal sources said executives were freaking out behind the scenes. Some allegedly wanted to shelve the movie altogether. And when a $200 million project gets close to being canned because your lead actress can't stop alienating half the country on Twitter, that's not edgy. That's catastrophic. Layoffs started hitting departments connected to the film. Marketing teams, the poor souls trying to spin this mess into something sellable, were reportedly told never to use her for promotions again. She became box office poison, brand kryptonite, The one actress no one wanted in their press junket Zoom call. And the internet? The internet had a field day. TikTok, X, YouTube, every platform lit up like Times Square. Compilations of her worst interviews went viral. Not just one or two, dozens. Clips of her calling the prince a stalker, saying love is outdated, whining about fans at Disneyland. They got millions of views. Millions. She became meme material overnight, and not the fun kind. Not the quirky, endearing kind. No, we're talking about Fairy Tale Wrecker, entitled Disaster, and the ever-iconic Walking Red Flag. Those were actual tags trending under her name.
Turning from this stuff in droves, right? Like that the original prince was stalking her. I don't even really remember what Snow White was about either. The midgets gangbanged her, whatever it was. It was a wholesome family film, and now they've turned it into woke trash.
Even Bill Maher, who isn't exactly a conservative darling, roasted the entire movie as woke trash. That's when you know it's bad. When Bill Maher and Candace Owens are practically holding hands in agreement. Speaking of Candace, she called Rachel the worst casting decision in Hollywood history. And to be honest, she might be right. Because even people who don't follow politics, even people who don't care about woke this or anti-woke that, said the same thing. Rachel Zegler just has no public charm whatsoever. It's not political. It's personal. Nobody wants to be insulted by a princess they're paying to watch.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion. But the reality is she's just not stable, like the majority of people in Hollywood. They're just not stable human beings.
By this point, Rachel's name had officially gone from red carpet material to Hollywood horror story. Current projects? Reportedly under review. There are whispers, loud ones, that she's now viewed as radioactive in casting rooms. Not because she can't act, she can, but because nobody wants to deal with the circus she brings. You cast Rachel Zegler now, you're not just hiring an actress, you're signing up for weeks of controversy, Twitter trends, and apologizing to investors. If watching careers crash and burn entertains you, hit that subscribe button, because we've got plenty more brutal truth where this came from.